Okay, so here's the Kia McGyver update. I just did this and I had it on regular camera instead of video, and man, saying the same thing twice is very frustrating. Anyway, I'm facing the downside of the McGyver approach because my solution of 4 subsequent consecutive applications of the Blue Devil head gasket sealer worked great for a little while, but now after about 5,000 or 6,000 miles, or I don't know how many miles to be honest with you, maybe 10,000, probably not, probably more in the neighborhood of 5 or 10,000. I'm sorry, 5 or 6,000. The thing is coming back. The symptom is coming back. So the symptoms are coming back. They're the same, but they're also different. Like, in other words, previously, before I applied my McGyver solution, the car would overheat when I'm driving, or at any point in time, really. And it was very reliable, like literally 12 minutes down the road, it would start overheating. I mean, it was like clockwork. Now the car never overheats when I'm driving, but if I drive a long distance, and then right after that I start encountering a lot of traffic, when I'm idling, it starts to overheat. But traffic around town, no problem. Also, very interestingly, if I drive around for a while, not overheating, and then I stop, turn the car off, and then just turn the power, not the power, but the electricity, I hit the start button twice, and the dashboard instruments come on and everything. I can sit there and watch the temperature go up, even though the car's not on. So how bizarre is that, right? I mean, that's really bizarre. I don't understand that. But and then on top of that, it has a lot of trouble starting when it's hot. When it's cold, it's no problem. But when it's hot, it doesn't want to start. So it's a gas feed thing, because if I just give it some gas, it does fine, but it runs rough for a few seconds, and then it evens out and it's fine. So I finally remembered that, wait a minute, see, the water boil and the bubbles are coming up in the reservoir tank again, just like before, but not bad. I mean, all this white stuff here, that's from before. That's not recent, really. And the white stuff is the Blue Devil. That's what that is. On the paint, you can sort of more or less rub it off, and it comes off. I don't know how well, but it does come off. I don't know how perfectly it comes off yet. I haven't tried, but I mean, when it gets on the outside, it comes off really well. There's some water stain marks there, but I think I can get rid of those. But the white stuff is gone. So anyway, I remembered that when I was looking for the crankshaft, is it the crankshaft? Yeah, the crankshaft position sensor. I took some bolts out of here, in here, which is on the front of the engine, which I learned is the intake manifold. Intake manifold always looks like, sorry about the shadows. The intake manifold always looks like this, right? It's got like a flange. It doesn't have to look like that, but it often does. I mean, because it's one unit, that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, it's not like a functional design. It's more of just a, just the way they designed it to look. It could be one piece without the little, whatever you would call these things, leaves, design leaves, or flanges. In some cars, it's just like a big oval piece of metal or piece of plastic. Sometimes it's metal, sometimes it's plastic. So I remember that when I was looking for the crankshaft position sensor, I took some bolts off of this thing, and I started to think, after all my McGyver, I finally remembered. I was like, wait a minute, maybe I didn't tighten, I know I tightened the bolts down, but I also remember that one day I came back and one of the bolts was loose. So I don't know if I forgot to loosen it, or it just became loose. So I said, wow, I wonder if those bolts have to be torqued, because some bolts have to be torqued to a specific setting, and some it doesn't really matter. Just tighten them and you're good. So it turns out this intake manifold, it is true. They do have to be torqued. So if they're not torqued, and if they're not torqued, you have to tighten the bolts in a specific order. It's pretty simple. You just start on the inside and go to the outside. Inside, the middle bolt, and either the right or the left, and then the opposite of the one you just did. So it's middle to outside, which is the way you tighten everything that has to be torqued, and it's like multiple bolts. You start in the middle and work to the outside. But anyway, so I realized, so if it's not torqued properly, there's a gasket in there, and there could be a little like micro space between the part that's being bolted to the other part. See, so if air is getting in there, that's called a loss of vacuum, right? I believe, from what I understand. I think so. Makes sense, right? It's called a loss of vacuum. If air is getting in there, then the vacuum is lost, which means the water will boil, which is exactly what's happening. The water's boiling. Now, I don't know if, and then the boiling water doesn't have the cooling power that non-boiling water does, even if the non-boiling water is above the boiling point, right? So, I mean, that's the whole point of pressurizing a system, so you can have water that's hotter than whatever the boiling point is, 232 degrees, I think, 100 degrees Celsius, 232 Fahrenheit. That's the whole point of having a vacuum system, is so you can have really hot water that's not boiling. So I'm hoping that this was the real problem all along, that these bolts were not properly torqued. That's an oversight and failure on my part, but it is what it is. I'm hoping now, I bought this awesome little torque wrench at Harbor Freight Tools for 20 bucks. And yeah, I mean, that place is like a crack house, man. You go in there and you cannot get out of there for under $50 because you just go in there for one little thing and you see 6 things while you're walking through the store to get the one thing you went for, which is exactly what happened today. Yeah, so I'm pretty stoked. I think if I just tighten down these intake manifold bolts to the proper torque and tighten them in the proper order, if I haven't ruined the intake manifold gasket, having them be improperly torqued for this period of time, a couple months, 3 months, whatever, I don't know how long it's been. But see, I think the Blue Devil was filling the gap. This is my theory. I think the reason the Blue Devil was working was because it was filling the gap that was created by the improperly torqued intake manifold bolts. And so yeah, and now the Blue Devil is it's wearing off or whatever. I could probably put, if this doesn't work, I'm just going to put another bottle of Blue Devil in there and see what happens. Eventually, I'm hoping that if I just keep doing that, maybe this time, this 5th and last time, hopefully, that it'll just stick and it'll be good forever. But that's another $50. So even more hopeful than that am I that this exercise in tightening down these bolts to the proper torque, which is only 13 to 17 foot-pounds, is going to be the actual real solution. So I got some high-performance brake rotors, which I'm super excited about, with some high-performance ceramic brake pads. Man, I'm so excited about getting those on this car. And got some other things to do. I mean, it's 120,000 miles, so I think a lot of things need to be done, even if they're not malfunctioning. Like, I think I should replace my serpentine belt. I might replace my water pump. Depending upon how much an AC compressor costs, I might replace that. I need new shocks, new struts. So quite a few things need to be done. I need to clean some mass airflow control. I need to clean some sensors. I have another camshaft position sensor. There's 2 of those. I only replaced one. I need to replace another one. I need to drain the brake fluid and put new brake fluid in there. So anyway, there's a lot to do. It's a lot of fun. I don't know if you saw the video I did about grounding, but if that's of any interest to you, the whole concept, the whole theory behind grounding is that the human body is like a capacitor. I mean, everybody knows that the human body is electrical in nature. I mean, I don't think anybody denies that. There's electrical stuff going on in your body. That's why we need metals, because metals conduct electricity. That's why we need salts. What do they call them? Not salts, but they, I mean, yes, salts, but there's another word. Electrolytes, I think. It's for the conductivity of the electrical signals going through our body. So when we're holding charges, they call it, a lot of people use language like negative charges, negative energy, yada yada yada, whatever. I mean, that's fine if you want to call it that. I mean, it's pretty accurate, but it's a little, I don't know what, for me. I mean, it's, for my taste, it's a little touchy-feely. I don't know what the right word is, but yeah, I mean, it's still accurate though. Whatever, I don't really have an issue with it. It just doesn't fit my personality. You know, you get that negative, that negative energy. Now I'm using the same language, right? And and our entire lives are designed such that our bodies never touch the earth. So people think that grounding is when we absorb energy from the earth, but the other point of view on that, the one that I'm interested in at the moment, is the fact that in fact, when we touch the earth, we discharge energy. We discharge all of the accumulated energy that accumulates in our body, because basically we're giant capacitors, you know. And if you have too much energy, just like any machine, any device that has too much energy, it starts to malfunction, right? And there's actually some videos on YouTube. There's people that say that all disease and all disorder is caused by what's it called? Inflammation. And inflammation is caused by excess charge, negative energy, if you want to call it that, in our bodies. So you have to go barefoot, but my theory is, like, you touch all these metal parts, you're crawling around on the ground. I mean, it's an amazing, it has to be, I would imagine, it has to be an amazing way to ground yourself, to discharge negative energy from your body. And if people are absorbing energy from the earth, well, that's fine too. Tesla would probably, that would be in line with everything Tesla did, I think. And I'm sure Tesla would agree with that as well. So anyway, that's it. That's the Kia McGyver update. Hope you liked it. Thanks for listening. God bless you. Goodbye. Goodbye.